Well, if you thought standards of dress were declining in Parliament, you were right. But wait until you see and hear the newest Member of Parliament. It had to be a Green MP, eh? Well, you've got to feel sorry for the Green Party. I mean, they've had it tough. They had to get rid of Elizabeth Kerry, who wasn't really a loss, due to allegations of bullying. This was ironic, given that she's always championed Pink Shirt Day, which was supposed to be against bullying. And then co-leader James Shaw packed it in because he's into the environment, but the Greens are now into wokeness, virtue signalling, and identity politics. Oh, and James is cis, white, male. Gonberger. And then it was lawyer Golriz Garaman who didn't realise that when you go shopping, not paying for stuff is actually a crime. Although, in her defence, she was just buying a scarf for this charming protest. And then finally it was Darlene Tana. She's only been an MP since the election 12 months ago, but Darlene Tana, who is no longer welcome in the party of diversity, equity and inclusion, well, she's not a she, despite clearly being XX chromosome and having been a she until about yesterday. No, she is a they-them. She said you never walk alone.
Not at all. My pronouns are they, them. I never walk alone, in fact.
Yep, but then, and I think this may be the real reason she was voted out of the Greens, she went back to biology. She's still an MP for now, and her pronouns are again she, her. And then we had the Minister of Anger Management, Julianne Genter.
Ms Genter, please resume your seat. Please resume your seat.
Yep, and then we had Pastor Steve. Now, Steve Abel is a Green MP who somehow managed to butcher the story of creation into a political statement.
To this bill, I wish we could extend the analogies of Genesis, but just to recall that elegant second verse of the first book of the Bible where the Spirit of God moves across the deep, wherein life was created. And I made the point in the earlier legislation that this is something where science and religion agree. Even before light began, the first interaction of the force of creation was with water. And that waters of the deep as a commons does not belong to anyone in a sense. That's right. Though some have customary claim to it, some have the right of customary claim to it, Mr. Speaker, based on...
don't tell Steve who really owns it all, eh? And then the intersectionality of critical race theory exploded in the face of the Green Party.
The Greens Dunedin councillor Marie Lofiso signed the letter and read it aloud at the AGM. Alofa Aiono, co-convener of the Pacifica branch, also signed and is the wife of former Green MP Elizabeth Kerry. Kerry quit the party after sending an accidental message to the Green group chat saying "crybaby" as Chloe Swarbrick spoke in the House.
In that case, the co-leaders manipulated the racist, angry brown woman hurting the fragile white woman trope for the frenzied media coverage, when in real time, Elizabeth was routinely attacked and undermined by senior staff and some MPs.
Not good. And to cap off a really, really bad period of time, this happened. Well, just when you thought it couldn't get worse, meet your new Member of Parliament for the Greens. He says, "It's my great honour and privilege to be the first non-binary person in Parliament." Yes, that is a Member of Parliament. Benjamin Doyle uses they, he, ear pronouns, although that has now been updated to they, them, ear, but who's counting? And describes himself as takatapui and whaikaha, which is disabled. In his MA thesis, he said, quote, "Importantly, this rangahau seeks to offer an alternative to the conventions of hegemonic empirical academia by centering the voices and lived experiences of those who have historically been subjected to the dehumanising objectification of Western research practices, end quote. And he also wrote, quote, by extension then any expressions of identity, be that gender or sexuality, beyond the limitations of patriarchal confines, face the threat of violence and rejection from the colonisers and by those of our whānau whom they have indoctrinated, end quote. Now, he's already been traumatised by being in the Parliament building during his first week. When he was in Parliament, he said, quote, this is a colonial institute, and as someone who's an advocate for Māori and who's really upfront with my feelings about the institution and racism and white supremacy, that felt quite confronting. Now, most concerningly, Benjamin Doyle previously worked at the Burnett Foundation, the AIDS Foundation. Yes, that foundation with those offensive and now banned posters that you all complained about. Have a watch of the type of stuff that he promotes. This was in response to the Mpox outbreak.
A sexual and public health update for gay, bi guys, trans women and non-binary folks who have casual sex with gay and bi guys. You will have seen the World Health Organization has recently declared Mpox a public health emergency of global significance. A few of you have reached out to ask what this means for you. First of all, don't panic. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, a vaccine is available to communities most at risk. All you need to do is reach out to your local sexual health clinic and arrange a consult, and they'll direct you to your best course of action. You can also head to Burnett Foundation Aotearoa's website, where you'll find more information about symptoms and preventative measures there. Most of all, look after each other, stay safe and have fun. Mauri ore.
Yes, nothing about self-control or risk avoidance. Just stay safe, have fun. There's actually far other highly offensive material on their website. It's so offensive they wouldn't actually show it to you, which sort of points to just how bad it is. Actually, you know what? He's an elected member of Parliament now, the Parliament of Representatives of New Zealand. He's now part of making laws and setting policy. He is being given a microphone by the media to speak. So you need to know what he talks about. Now, I'll show you some, it's not the worst stuff, but what you're about to see will be offensive to you. If you don't want to be offended, turn away for the next 15 seconds. But for those who want to see the ideology behind both the government-funded charity, the Burnett Foundation, and the newest Member of Parliament in the House of Representatives, paid for by your tax money, okay? If you don't want to be offended, turn away for 15 seconds. Bet you feel like you need a shower right now. Now, as further punishment for watching McBLOG, I'm going to make you watch some of his maiden speech. It's going to be tough, but I think you'll be able to cope. Seriously, I actually think you'll find it a hoot. Now, when he first appeared for his maiden speech, I actually thought Boy George, the singer, had become an MP. I mean, gone are the suits and ties and professional business wear in Parliament, eh? If you don't know who I'm talking about, this is Boy George, but Trevor Mallard has got a lot to answer for the declining standards Parliament may have had. I actually think that Benjamin Doyle may be competing with Te Pāti Māori MP Rawiri Waititi, actually. And of course, he is surrounded by the Hamas supporters group, the Green Caucus. Just don't tell the Greens what the Palestinians think of LGBT stuff, eh? But let's get straight into the speech, and straight away, you know he's an activist.
Ko they, them, oku tūkapi. Ko Benjamin Doyle tōku nei ingoa. Yesterday was International Trans Day of Remembrance. A day to celebrate the gift that is our trans whānau. Let it be known in this House that trans lives are taonga, that ira whiti rights are a te tiriti issue. It is a day to reflect on the tireless work of our trans leaders and elders. The icons who have fought, who have organised, who have existed in the face of enormous vitriolic hate.
Ah, yes, I remember all that vitriolic hate against trans. I mean, it was a shocker. I mean, do you remember that violence towards the trans people and that trans woman that was assaulted? Oh, hang on. No, she's not trans. Okay, look, sorry about that. Forget what you saw that. Let's keep going.
A hate, I might add, that was imported to Aotearoa by colonisation.
Oh, yes, look at all these colonisers. Yeah. Boy, I'm glad that someone is finally calling them out. Let's continue.
I am proud to be takatapui, queer, non-binary, which means that my gender is expansive and fluid, not muzzled by the strict confines of a suffocating binary. If my pronouns confuse you, here's a tip, just use my name. And if the way I dress causes you concern, I say to you, be more concerned by the contents of my mind than that of my wardrobe.
Oh, yeah. We're concerned about the contents of your mind. You don't need to question that. Not at all. By the way, is he wearing nail polish? Anyway, look, it's time for some mindfulness. Take a deep breath.
That like the river, we must flow and adapt. That like the birds, we must rise, we must sing. That like the forest...
Ready?
We must breathe.
We must breathe. You know, I don't know, but that reminded me so much of that woman from the Disinformation Project about just step back when you're in the presence of trad mums. And finally, a poem and lies about genocide, colonisation and capitalism.
I'm going to recite a poem by Refat Alarer, who was murdered in December last year by an IOF airstrike in northern Gaza during Israel's ongoing genocide in Palestine. And we must recognise the insidious tendrils of colonisation and capitalism. If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things.
Whew! You should be real grateful that I only showed you the really good bits and didn't make you sit through the 18 plus minutes of bonkerism. Now, just before I go, yesterday, TVNZ's Q&A covered the appointment of the new MP. Yeah, New Zealand's first openly non-binary MP on their path to Parliament. Of course, there was no coverage of all the tricky issues that I've just raised in this McBLOG. Nope, this was TVNZ journalism at its very worst. A puff piece. Actually, I'm still waiting for my puff piece from Q&A. But let's quickly check this out. And of course, Q&A, as you can see, immediately destroys the English language and buys into the wokeness of gender ideology.
Another first has been marked in Parliament this week with the maiden speech of Green MP Benjamin Doyle. They are New Zealand's first ever MP to identify as non-binary and sat down with reporter Fina Owen to explain how their identity shapes their politics.
And yep, he was wearing nail polish.
I'm distracted, Benjamin, by your nails. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, these are pretty incredible. I have an amazing nail tech in Kirikiriroa, and she's really up for a challenge. So this week it felt appropriate to have the Tino Rangatiratanga flag.
And note the ring that he's wearing and also his role at Waikato University.
I trained as a high school teacher and worked in that space for nearly a decade. And I worked as a researcher, a kaupapa Māori researcher at Waikato University, predominantly in justice and equity and belonging for Māori students.
Okay, and now for some victimhood. He'll still take the salary and perks of the old-fashioned colonial and patriarchal institution.
Benjamin Doyle is also non-binary.
Yeah, I'm the first openly non-binary MP.
This is quite a buttoned-down environment here in Parliament. How do you deal with that, and how have people responded to you?
This institution is very old-fashioned and has some inherited beliefs and rules that don't fit the context of a modern society. So, I mean, while it may seem like I'm some outlier in how I express myself here, actually, if you look around, there are a lot of people here who in small ways express who they are and challenge those old-fashioned kind of colonial norms, those patriarchal norms.
Well, I mean, it is Wellington. And just finally, that outfit. And the books he's carrying, including Imagining Decolonisation, and a book about intimate details. I just really hope they're not the intimate details that the AIDS Foundation wants everyone to know about.
The speaker had seen my outfit beforehand and was like, "Is that what you're wearing?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay." So he didn't have a problem with it. So he was happy with the way.
He said, "Is that what you're wearing?"
"Is that what you're wearing?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay." I had to ask permission about how many books I could carry, and I wasn't sure how many I was allowed. But they said, as long as you can carry them. I said, am I allowed to bring a bag? So I have a facsimile of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, of course. Also a copy of Imagining Decolonisation. And then the last book I have there is called Intimate Details and Vital Statistics. And I also was inspired by Hana Rafiti, who also wore a beret the day.
Are you in the right party?
Absolutely, I am.
Oh, yes, no, he's definitely in the right party. Stunning reporting from TVNZ's Q&A. No wonder they need taxpayer funding. They'd never survive in a free market environment. Propaganda always has to be propped up. But just when you thought the Green Party couldn't get any more radical, they just did. Our Parliament sure needs our prayers.